Hello, I'm Denise Hill. I love sharing stories of my experiences with celebrities, politicians, some of your favorite musicians and artists, but most importantly, I love sharing the stories of everyday people. Their lives serve as opportunities to inspire, empower, and educate. It is my honor to share the stories of those who fought the fight against breast cancer and won. The So Alive Project is all about sharing the stories of survivors and caregivers. Whether you are in the fight, a survivor yourself, supporting someone who is in the fight, or just want to be informed, my hope is that this story will bless you. Please make sure you subscribe to this page or set your notifications on all social media so you don't miss one. I am at The Denise Hill. One of these stories just might change your life. I'm Denise Hill, and this is the So Alive Project. I'm here with Miss Karla Baptiste. How are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fabulous. Thank you so much for your willingness to share your story with us so that we can continue to inspire others, educate folks, and empower them to live their best life possible.
Yes, absolutely.
I know sometimes when you say live their best life possible, it can be like, well, I didn't have the choice in this thing. I got to kind of make the best life possible with the hand I was dealt.
It's funny that you're talking about living your best life and all of that because my handle across social media is Karla Living. And so that's what I show to people. Even though I'm a stage 4 breast cancer survivor, I'm focused on living, not dying. So that's something that I try to get across to people, and especially after I had just come off of living my dream of living in Paris, France, before I got the diagnosis. So I was 34 at the time, had just gotten back from living abroad, and just was on top of the world thinking the best was yet to come. And it took about a year. I went to Paris to study to get my master's degree. And so I thought, like most graduates, that, the red carpet is going to be rolled out. You're going to get this fabulous job and everything's going to be wonderful. And it took me about a year to find a job. And by the time I found a job, I was so broke that I couldn't afford not to take the offer that was given to me, even though they needed me to pay for my relocation to the San Francisco Bay Area, which is already very expensive. So I had to take a loan from my parents just to even take this job. And then when I got there, I was so overwhelmed by the onboarding that was non-existent, basically, and just the financial stress because they never did reimburse me until it was a while, 2 months later. So I was undergoing a lot of stress at the time, and I just was sitting at home watching television and felt an itch on my left breast and went to scratch it and felt a rash. And I'd never had a rash on my breast before, so I thought I'll just put some cortisone cream on it and it'll clear up right away. And when I applied the cortisone cream, I felt a large mass.
Wow.
Yeah, and it seemed like it must have popped up. So I thought it was a cyst because it was rather large and I never felt it before. And before I relocated, I had my doctor did a clinical breast exam, and I had been doing my breast self-exam. So, but it turns out after I got the mammogram and ultrasound, and they went ahead and did a biopsy and determined it was breast cancer. I had a mastectomy, and when they removed the lump, my doctor told me that it was shaped like a discus. So it was flat. So anytime that I tried to feel it, just doing the usual breast exam, it felt like muscle or breast tissue. And so when I actually went to the doctor, he couldn't feel it to refer me onto the mammogram. He couldn't feel it. I had to sit up and tell him to squeeze it, and then he could feel it. And so I always tell people now whenever I talk to not just do the regular breast self-exam, to also squeeze, because sometimes a husband will find his wife's lump because that's what they're doing, not feeling around for a pebble, but actually squeezing. So, yeah, I was 34 at the time. It turned out to be, they thought it was stage 2, but it actually was stage 3 and was in 14 out of 24 of my lymph nodes. And the tumor was larger than they thought. So that's what made it stage 3, was the lymph node involvement and the tumor being larger. So I had to undergo aggressive treatments. It was chemo, radiation, tamoxifen for 4 years. And then I was cancer-free for 7 years. And then shortly after I relocated to the Dallas area where I live now, I started having muscle spasms in my back and went to the doctors. They were like, you must be just getting older, because I was just a little over 40. And they're like, oh, you probably worked out too hard. We don't see anything. But I went to ER. I didn't know I was dehydrated, but that's what they found out. I was having shortness of breath and low blood pressure. But they scanned my lungs just to make sure everything was clear. And they said, your lungs are clear, but we see a lesion on your T12 vertebrae, and you're going to want to see an oncologist right away. So that led to me going to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. And thankfully, I didn't have to go through the whole chemo radiation process again. So that's just a testament to how far we've come with medication and research. I just had to get a couple shots to shut off my ovaries, and then one to block my estrogen. And I was cancer-free for 5 years. So I'm a 12-year survivor. And then just this past July, I found out that they're seeing progression in my spine again.
Wow.
So now I'm back to, I'm on a new medication. It's a pill. And so we're just in the process of seeing how that's working for me. But it's just been quite the experience, and I know God has been with me the whole time. The funny thing about it is I'm an author. My memoir is called Digging Your Heels, The Glamorous and Not So Glamorous Life of a Young Breast Cancer Survivor. And right before I published it, that's when I got the news about the initial metastasis to my spine. And then I had to wind up doing a Kickstarter, because I was going to just publish my book on my own with my savings. But then I had to go through a lot of different dental work and stuff I had to get done in order to start treatment. So I wound up doing a Kickstarter, and I raised about $13,000 to publish my memoir. You know, it was just like an obstacle, but in spite of it, it kind of just spurred me forward to just be more determined to get my story out there. And so this time I just retired from corporate America. I just announced that I was retiring from corporate America. I'm going to write more books. I'm going to live my best life, because life is short, and I just was not happy doing the same thing. It just was getting monotonous, and I wasn't passionate about it. And I just was feeling so creative and like I wanted to do more, and I want to do more breast health advocacy. Well, wouldn't you know? As soon as I'm on my way to my father's birthplace, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I'm like, I'm going to go start my retirement for 4 weeks, lay on the beach, rest and recuperation. And on my way there, my doctor, we had a scan, and they said, we see the progression. So I was like, isn't the devil just busy?
Okay.
But the funny thing is that when they told me what the treatment plan was going to be, I realized that it's just God giving me independence in all areas of my life, because now I'm going to be on a pill. And before, I would have had to go to Cancer Treatment Centers of America in Chicago once a month. I've been doing that for 5 years. And I was really starting to feel like, well, do I have to do this, every month? And so when they sat down and said, okay, so now you're going to be on a pill and you're going to just come every 3 months instead of every month, I felt like, that was the whole point in all of this, because if nothing had ever changed, they would have never had any reason to change my regimen.
Okay. Can we pause?
That's how I feel.
Can we? That's a lot. What?
It is.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. So, wow. What industry are you in? Can we ask that?
Yes, I worked in food and beverage sales. I mean, nowadays it's not hard to find where someone worked, because I'm on LinkedIn and I wasn't very private about working for them. In fact, they had me on a Gatorade bottle with Eli Manning.
It's safe to say it was a high pressure job. It
was very high pressure. And it started to get to the point where I felt like, because I look fine and I work at a high level, I don't think there was maybe the consideration for all that I was bringing to the table, in addition to every month going to get treatment and just being stage 4. I wasn't a stage 2 breast cancer survivor, like there's no stage 5. And so I really felt like I was going to be upset with myself if my cancer returned and I was still doing that job.
And what kind were you diagnosed with?
I was ER/PR positive, so estrogen, progesterone positive, HER2 negative. So a lot of African American women are diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, which is very aggressive. I did not have that form of breast cancer. It was invasive ductal carcinoma.
Wow. I must admit, just about everything about your story is unique in the sense that you were young, in your 30s.
Yes.
It wasn't this lump the way many people describe it. It was a rash associated with it, which that's probably the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, well, there's inflammatory breast cancer, and it can present without a lump. And so that's something it manifests in the skin and kind of in the lymph system. So I have a girlfriend who she was having irritation with her breast and a little bit of a rash and that sort of thing. She was going to the doctor for 2 years, and the doctor was just telling her, no, it's fine. You probably need to change your detergent, all these different things. And by the time she figured out what was going on, she had stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer in her lungs and I think her brain too, her liver, her bones. So when you have something going on in your skin, I just did a PSA about it on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is Karla Living. That's Karla Living. And I talk about early detection and prevention and knowing your risk. But some of the symptoms I talk about are like the inverted nipple, the rash, if your breast is feeling warmer than usual, thicker skin, and different things that people don't associate with breast cancer because we've gotten so conditioned to look for a lump. But yeah, I thought that's what it was. When I felt the rash, I was like, researching. I was like, okay, I hope I don't have inflammatory breast cancer, because I knew it was rare but very aggressive, and I knew it would manifest that way. But they told me I didn't have it.
Do you have a genetic component to this? Is your mom or
No,
anyone?
but I think I do, but they just don't know the gene yet, because my dad's mother, she had breast cancer. She had died of breast cancer a couple years prior to me getting breast cancer, but she was in her 80s. And so my dad didn't have a sister. And so I didn't have the BRCA1 or any of the genetic mutations. I didn't test positive for those. And so and in hindsight now, her sister passed recently of breast cancer. Her brother died of prostate cancer. And those reproductive cancers can be connected to breast cancer. So I think there probably is a gene. They just don't know what it is, because I feel like my grandmother could have had stomach cancer, colon cancer, any kind of cancer. She had breast cancer, and so did I. Yeah, it's just something that now all of us are aware of. So, but we don't have a gene.
So, a 2-time breast cancer survivor, and in the midst of it right now, it's probably safe to say knockdown 1 was like, okay, let's get up and handle this. Knockdown 2 is like, what, again? And then 3,
right.
How were you feeling? What were your thoughts? And most importantly, how did you pull yourself back to a place where you could fight and not feel sorry for yourself?
Yeah, so the reason I named my book Digging Your Heels is because I felt like that was the recommendation or advice I would have to someone going through this. Prior to breast cancer, I had been through a lot in my personal life with the divorce and miscarriages and health issues and things like that, and I had been depressed, and I never wanted to be depressed like that again. And so when I got the news about the breast cancer, I just didn't want to go through the chemo and that sort of thing, because I thought it would make me feel horrible, and I didn't want to have to go through all that. But once they realized that it was so advanced that I had to go through it, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to control how I respond to this. I'm going to have to not let myself get into any pit. I'm just going to have to stay positive and dig in my heels. That's just how I felt. And I had to call my parents and tell them. And I thought, I've got to make sure they understand how we're approaching this, that we're not going to be one foot in the grave, pity party. We're going to just believe God that we're going to get through this, because God had gotten me through my previous situation. One book that helped me tremendously was Joyce Meyer's The Battlefield of the Mind. Mm-hmm. That helped me a lot, understanding that I didn't have to take every thought that came into my head. I didn't have to entertain it. So that was good. So by the time I got this diagnosis, I was pretty strong spiritually. And really, that's what you really need to get you through is it's the mind and the spirit. And you need to be have a good foundation. So the second time, when it came back to my spine, that was a dark time because I had never heard of anyone surviving stage 4 breast cancer. And I actually had seen a show where there were a reality show where they were on Oprah Winfrey Network. There were a couple of stage 4 breast cancer survivors on that show that really encouraged me. But when I got the news that my cancer had come back to my spine, it's funny because I know you're a gospel DJ, and it was music that helped me through. So Byron Cage's I Will Bless the Lord came on, or either I turned it on. I don't remember what happened. I just know that song was on and was on repeat. And that's all I can say is that I will bless the Lord, because I knew he had gotten me through the previous time. And I knew it wasn't a time to, have a pity party about it. It was time to trust God and call on God, who was the only person who was going to get me through this, the only one who was going to get me through this. So we went right from work. I left work and went straight to my parents' house, called my family, and we all met at my parents', and we had prayer and just praised God. I didn't sit back and let myself think the worst. At least I tried not to. A couple days after days went on, I woke up with a lot of fear, and I thought, this is not good. I don't feel good. And when my doctor told me that I could live several years with bone metastasis, I thought, well, geez, I don't want to wake up every day feeling like this if I don't know how long I have to live. I mean, I could live for 10 years. I don't want to spend the last 10 years of my life being depressed and fearful. I want to, I want to be happy. I don't want to be tormented like this, because that's what it was. And I realized that it wasn't of God, that God didn't give me the spirit of fear. And once I realized that that's where it was coming from, I had to make the choice to let it go. It was actually a choice for me to take on fear as a choice, because God gave me power, love, and a sound mind. And it sounds very easy and, sounds like it's easier said than done. But when you really think about it, it's very easy to do when you know that you have power, love, and a sound mind. And you need to walk in it. You just need to not worry. And that's how I've gotten through it. So this last time, I've had a couple scares here and there. I would just pray. Those weren't anything, it turned out to be nothing. This time it caught me. It was like I thought it was coming from the right, and it came from the left, because I had gone to the dentist and they saw something in my jaw. And so we were all focused on the jaw. By the time I went in for the scan, they said, they didn't even bring up the jaw. They were like, we see something on your spine. I'm like, what about the jaw? They were like, no, that's fine. It's your spine. I was like, okay. So totally caught me off guard, but you have to see the silver lining in everything. Wow. To me. I don't know how other people manage, but how I manage, for me, I know the purpose God has for me. And I know my purpose is to give other people hope and to help them build their faith. So I don't feel like this cancer came to kill me. I know other people I talk to, I don't think they know what their purpose is or what God has planned for their life. And I think that makes it harder for them.
That's profound. That's deep.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that it sounds easy. Nothing about your story sounds easy. Okay.
I know, but I try to tell people I can't give a 1, 2, 3 on how to let fear go. But, you
it's
do have to just, it's a process, and faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God, right? So you just need to inundate yourself with what God gave you and what he didn't give you. And once you realize that, you just have to let it go. The Bible also says, resist the devil and he will flee. So when he's telling you that you're going to die, you got to come back with why you're not going to die, and you know what the word of God says, and just he will leave you once you start realizing, once he realizes you're not going to entertain the thoughts that he's coming at you with.
Well, you mentioned that you've got family, you've got faith, and you took control over your life and your schedule and your independence. There's been documented that some of the external pressures and stresses of life, as well as some of our habits, can affect our ability to progress in a positive way from, not getting some chronic diseases, and once you're diagnosed with something, not allowing it to progress. So in addition to those changes, did you make any concerning your nutrition, concerning your exercise lifestyle? Any suggestions that you can share?
Absolutely. So the reason that I go out to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America is because they have a holistic approach. So when I saw the oncology center here, and my mom asked them, well, what about diet? Is there anything that she can do diet-wise to help this, to help heal? Or did that play a part in the recurrence? And the doctor said, oh, she can eat whatever she wants. And I thought, okay, that sounds crazy, because I know you're supposed to eat green leafy vegetables. People are juicing. Like, this can't be. So then I asked about stress. And I said, well, what about stress? Because I have been under a lot of stress lately at work. And she's like, well, everybody's under some sort of stress in their lives. And that's when I said, I cannot be treated at this place, because it was stage 4. Like I said, there's no stage 5. If it was stage 0 or 1, I might have let them do whatever they do, because, I'd have a greater chance of surviving. But I felt like I needed to come at this from every different angle. So at the Cancer Treatment Centers, I have a naturopath, I have a nutritionist, and I have my regular oncologist. We have a pastor assigned to us. So there's mind, body, spirit approach to this. Now, this last recurrence that I had to my spine, I also feel like it's a wake-up call and an opportunity for me to align with the plan and the vision God has given me for my life, which is the health and wellness example that I'm supposed to be to other people as well. So I juice. When I first got the metastasis, I was losing weight, eating right, juicing, whatever. And over time, I got away from that. So now I need to lose about 50 pounds to get my weight to a healthy BMI, which lowers your risk of recurrence and helps with prevention if you've never been diagnosed. And so I talk about that too in the PSA. Talk about not smoking, not drinking a lot of alcohol, exercising 5 days a week. So now, especially that I'm not working, I'm able to put more focus on those things. And it's definitely a huge part of my survivorship. I notice when I'm eating healthy and taking my supplements and doing that sort of thing, I have less side effects. And these drugs have a lot of side effects. So definitely what you put into your body is so important. So I don't know why that doctor would tell me I could eat whatever I want. I can't just sit around, and cancer feeds on sugar. I'm just going to eat candy, and I love gummy bears. Just sit around and eat gummy bears and expect that my cancer is going to go away. That's really not how that works.
That's a huge piece. I mean, I really think now there's enough people that are kind of speaking about the dangers of sugar in general that I'm hoping it'll become much larger conversation, but we know there's a whole industry behind it that probably will prevent that. But I appreciate that input, definitely. But I don't want to hold you much longer, but if you could just think about that 30-something, even 20-something-year-old young lady being diagnosed, or someone who is facing stage 4 cancer, can you give them some encouragement from your unique perspective?
Yes. If you are 30-something and you have something in your breast, I mean, what helped me was I had seen a lot of shows, Oprah shows that come on, and people had been misdiagnosed and told, oh, you're too young or you don't fit the demographic. Let's watch it. I would say be very vigilant and determined about getting to the bottom of what's going on with your breast. Time is of the essence. So early detection is key, and you have better survival rates if you catch it early. And then also you may have more options as far as not having to lose your entire breast. But if you are diagnosed with any stage of cancer, this is something that I tell people all the time when I go and speak, and it's the fact that people call cancer the big C. And I tell them, I've got the big C, but the big C is Christ. Christ is the big C.
Love it.
Cancer is the little c. And we can't continue to make cancer so big and so insurmountable that we don't believe that God can heal us. And I think that's what we've done and the thing about fear is it weakens your immune system.
Yeah.
So I always say, if I would have stayed in fear like I was and just lived my life like that, I would have helped cancer do what it came to do, which is kill me, because my immune system would have been all compromised and stressed out, So it really doesn't benefit you at all to be fearful. And we serve a big and mighty God. There's nothing too hard for him. So I would say just put your trust in him. And maybe if you need to pray to help your unbelief, but just surround yourself is another thing I tell people, to surround yourself with people who are going to believe with you. Continue to pray and always keep the faith. But get away from toxic people. That's real important. You don't want those people that are going to think that you're dying or whatnot. You don't want those people around you. You want people around you who are going to believe with you for your healing.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Thank you so much. Karla Baptiste, the author of the book, Dig in Your Heels, we're going to speak it, 3-time breast cancer survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so very much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
My hope is that this story has helped to educate you, empower you, and encourage you. We offer all the love and support we can for those who are in the darkest of moments, and we celebrate that we're so alive for those who have been victorious and survived the great challenge they call breast cancer. Most importantly, I honor the legacies of those who are at rest from the fight. I appreciate each and every person for their willingness to share their story, and I look forward to bringing you more. Make sure to follow me on social media. I am the Denise Hill. You stay blessed.